IIT is famous for being MIT of India.
Yeah, 10,000 get into
10,000.
IITs and about 1,000 get into the top IITs.
In 2025, you were a undergrad research fellow at Harvard University.
If you ask me, I would say IIT Madras is the best.
Is going abroad seen as success in Indian society? What do people around the world misunderstand most about the India?
The campus is beautiful. We have
Yes.
wildlife as well. We have like beautiful deers and black bucks just
Oh,
sort of going around.
I have so many questions, and before getting into the questions, I like to ask you introduce yourself. What are you studying? What are you? Which school you are? And what is your major? Then I can dig into more questions.
Sure, yeah, that's like a good way to start. So, hello everyone, I am R. Karthik. I am currently a fourth year undergraduate student at IIT Madras. So, I'm currently studying in India and I'm majoring in biological sciences. So, IIT offers this integrated sort of dual degree program. So, I'm also doing my master's in complex systems and dynamics. And yeah, I'm specializing in computational biology right now.
Wow, that's amazing. So I know IIT is famous for being MIT of India. Can you tell us more about IIT?
Yeah, sure. Actually, you're in many ways right because IITs in India is sort of the premier institutes for technology and engineering. So as MIT is famous in the US for its engineering sort of results, the same way IITs also sort of produce these interesting projects, and you have various startups that sort of come out of these IITs. I think one of the reasons why it sort of ranked very high is the students that show up, because the selection process is very difficult. So getting into an IIT is like every high school student's dream come true, and you need to like work your ass out and you need to study throughout your 11th and 12th. So the sort of the peer group that you end up with is very good. Like it's like the top students from India that end up showing here. So that end of the day boosts the university's performance, and yeah, um, that's
Yeah,
that's
that's
about it.
great. So I know in some countries like Iran, there are some special exams that let the students to enter to the university. I know there is this exam called JEE, if I'm
Yeah.
right, in India. So can you tell us more about that part? What is that? What is this exam? And
Yeah, so I think it's very similar to SAT. So I'm sure that's how you sort of get into Harvard or MIT or any of the engineering institutes in the US. So similar to your SATs, you have what's known as JE. So it's a series of essentially two exams. The first one is JE mains. So over sort of 10 lakh students on an average write this particular exam. So that's basically the entire high school sort of population of India who are in the engineering stream. So people who have sort of taken math in their high school instead of biology. So the biology guys have NEET, and that's a different exam system altogether. But yeah, the students who take math write the JEE main, so that's over 10 lakh students, and basically the top 10% get selected for the JEE Advanced. So, I mean, this exam, it sort of covers physics, chemistry, math. So, JEE mains is 3 hours, 100 marks in physics, 100 marks in chemistry, 100 marks in math. And towards the end, you get your All India rank. So, it sort of places you where you are amongst everyone in the country who's sort of taken the exam. And yeah, if you're in the top 10%, you sort of qualify for the next exam, which is the JEE Advanced. And yeah, 1 lakh students write it, and it's like only there are like what 10,000 seats in IITs. So I'm saying like IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, and yeah, you obviously have like the older IITs that were established in like the early 1950s after independence. that have like the higher sort of weightage, the better faculty, the better students end up going there. And so you're left with basically 1% of the students actually getting into IITs, and amongst that, only like the 0.1% get into the top IITs. So that's
Wow.
sort of the exam. Um, I mean, do you want me to talk a little bit more about the exam, or like how it's sort of?
Yeah, let me ask one
Yeah.
question. How roughly how many students compete in this exam to get into IIT schools or other
Uh,
schools?
so that's 10 lakhs. I mean, that's a million students. I think if you convert it to that system, yeah, it's about a million students who write the exam.
So 1 million students take part in exam and 1,000 at the end getting into the
10,000. Yeah, 10,000 get into
10,000.
IITs and about 1,000 get into the top IITs, and like the
So we do have different IITs, IIT Madras, IIT in Mumbai, and which ones are the top?
that's a debate that we ourselves as students keep having, because we
Okay.
from IIT Madras feel like we are the better institutes, and so I mean a nice way to sort of get an idea is like through the inter-IIT competitions that we have every year. So we have the culturals, we have tech, and we have sports, and so we just sort of all the 23 IITs come together and compete amongst ourselves to say, oh, this IIT is like really good in sports, and like this IIT is really good with tech. But if you ask me, I would say IIT Madras is the best because of the freedom and the other aspects. But then, yeah, if you ask other people who are studying in IIT Bombay, for example, they say that IIT Bombay is like the best institute. It comes to personal choice. We do have like a state sort of ranking where yeah, India itself sort of gives ranks to every institution based on how they're performing in terms of the research output, in terms of the technical innovations. So this is known as the NIRF system, and yeah, IIT Madras has been coming as NIRF one over the last sort of 3 4 years. So I would say that does say that IIT Madras is the best institution in amongst the IITs.
Nice, nice. So, since you're in IIT Madras, definitely you passed those exams, right? How many
Yeah.
hours on average did you study to get into IIT Madras?
Uh, haven't like actually kept track of the number of hours, but it was basically day in and day out. So the I mean, you start studying from grade 11, so it's like a 2 year process. So you would start from 11th, and the exam is towards the end of your 12th grade. So you write JEE mains, you hope that you qualify, and then you sort of write JEE advance as well, and the preparation is done for both. So yeah, you do join these sort of coaching centers where they teach you the art of cracking these exams, and so they give you this guidance. Okay, if the student is sort of capable of cracking J advanced, so in 11th standard itself they start preparing you for advanced, hoping that you will crack JEE mains. But then yeah, the bigger goal is to get into the IITs. But coming to the point of number of hours, it's just day in and day out. I mean, I didn't have anything else to do. It's just either studying or sleeping and eating, and yeah, that's about it. It was COVID as well, so you do end up watching a lot of YouTube videos and other things. But yeah, it was just basically non-stop studying because there was constantly exams being thrown at you. So the coaching center makes sure that you don't slack off. So it's like every 2 3 weeks you have an exam where or you get a sort of coaching rank, and so you want to better yourself every time. And so you basically just spend your entire high school hours just studying.
So
If you want
what was the hardest part of the preparation while you were preparing yourself to get into exam and get into IIT Madras?
So I think one of the hardest parts probably was you had to keep pushing yourself in the sense that throughout the process, well, personally, I had a lot of failures because in some exams I would not, get the required marks, and my sort of teachers would sort of scold me like, okay, he's not, he can't really push himself to the limits and stuff like that. So it teaches you a lot of perseverance. So you have to constantly study a minimum of like 4 or 5 hours a day and not lose focus. I know a lot of students, I know a lot of my classmates who sort of gave up in the middle. And so you sometimes do have these feelings, oh, why am I studying for, getting into an IIT? I can always join some other, some other state university. Or, for example, say you did well in another entrance exam or like the JEE mains, for example, that the institutions those entrance exams give you are also really good. So, like, why do you need to sort of push yourself again? But yeah, apart from that, the subjects, it's a real step up from your grade 10 sort of middle school level, because for the first time you're actually exposed to like higher level of mathematics and physics and chemistry, and yeah, you need to sort of make sure that you don't slack off in any one of those subjects. It's sort of like bringing everything together, and then yeah, hoping you do well. And so it is sometimes yeah, hard on your sides, but you just have to keep pushing. So I think that's like the most difficult part of trying to crack such an exam.
Right. So if you want to give advice for students who are preparing themselves to crack the IIT exam, what advice would you give them?
Oh, I'd say it's worth it. Simply put, the amount of exposure that IITs offer you, you can do whatever you expect in high school, say play video games or going out with friends in a premier institute like IIT. And it's, I would say, 10 times better, because you find people who are very similar to your interests, and you get probably the best sort of peer group. And I'd say it's just 2 years of struggle, and after that, opportunities just open up. I think that is what I would give them. So just forget about anything else, your personal life, your sort of other, commitments. 2 years, just study, work hard, and even if you don't get it, you can always say, I failed at cracking one of the most difficult exams in the world. So it will always give you that inner confidence, and I think that's like really important for someone in their 17s and 18s, before sort of pushing themselves to write the exam. Yeah, I think that's what I'll give it. It's just worth it. Anyone who's
That's
preparing,
that's
yeah, just 2 years, that's it.
that's true. That's true. So how's life on campus at IIT Madras?
Oh, the campus is beautiful. So the campus is over 600 acres. So it's a single campus, and it's filled to the brim with greenery. So it's actually right in the middle of Chennai, which is like a metropolitan city in India. And it's very hard to find such a huge green space right in the middle of the city. And so the campus is beautiful, and yeah, you get access to the best sort of facilities in your department, and other activities. So there are various student clubs. So say you're interested in dancing, say you're interested in like pencil sketching, fine arts, there are people who have been doing that in their childhood, and then have come to IIT and then sort of set up this club and this camp, and so you can sort of mingle with them and share your thoughts on the same subjects. But yeah, it's pure exposure, and yeah, the campus is beautiful. We have
Nice.
wildlife as well. We have like beautiful deers and black bucks just
Oh,
sort of going around. Yeah.
nice. Beautiful. Do students have time for sports, hobbies, or
Oh yeah.
travel?
Oh yeah. We. So that's the thing. Because you sort of study, day in and day out for those 2 years, that builds a sense of confidence, and it builds a sense of, okay, you can put in the effort even in the last minute. And the good thing about IITs is that, well, decisions have been made to sort of reduce the workload of students, because they've sort of come through this sort of process. And so a lot of flexibility is given to the students to perform their own tasks. So say they're not so interested in building or like studying their coursework that they're sort of taken up, and want to get into the startups, we have startup incubators, and we have various clubs, so students can choose their own path. yeah, obviously CGPA is something that they have to maintain, but yeah, once you come to an IIT, you have plenty of time to sort of explore, different areas and sort of pick and choose. Again, there's times to that. So like first year is all about exploring, but then once you hit your second, third year, you sort of stick to one or two, areas of interest, I would say, and sort of develop the skills, hobbies, and other things mainly dedicated to that, because you don't tend to have a lot of time because of placements and getting into the corporate world and getting that sort of exposure and other thing, internships, placements, yeah.
Right.
But overall, I would say uh, very free. Like first year, it's you can explore everything, whatever you feel like.
That's so cool. So how is the stress level?
Okay, so stress level, see, I would say it's a mixed bag. So if you surround yourself with like really good peers, they will push you. So the institute doesn't directly, put you under a lot of stress, but then you sort of look at your own peers and you see, okay, these guys are doing, they're building crazy things, and you yourself want to do, such things, and you want to excel yourself. So that sometimes does put a pressure on you, but then, yeah, if you, feel like relaxing, you can obviously have, that kind of peer group. But then, yeah, I would personally suggest having an interesting peer group that sort of puts you under a little bit of stress, just to keep yourself motivated and keep yourself going. uh, yeah.
Right. What is something about IIT life that people on social media don't see it?
So I think there's a huge stereotype that IITs are just nerds who study day in and day out because of the way we sort of get into the exam. But then that's definitely not true. Our cultural festival is probably one of the biggest in all of India in terms of college fest, and people enjoy uh, so much. And I think we don't just study, we do other activities, we have a lot of fun. Sometimes people go for trekking, people go explore India, and we also get the opportunity to go abroad as well, and experience the culture in different places. So I would say that, yeah, we came through this exam, we studied a lot, but that is not what happens at IITs. It's very open. People explore their own interests all the time. Like I have friends who go all the way to North India and go to other places who perform drums and are part of bands and other things. So yeah, I think that's like one thing that yeah, people should sort of know.
Right. So, just for curiosity, the the language of the education in India is English, right? In all schools.
Yes, yes.
So everyone definitely is fluent in
Yeah,
English.
so I would say, yeah, because most schools, yeah, because one of our national languages is English, but there are obviously Hindi medium schools. So Hindi is the other sort of regional language. So what ends up happening is in our household we speak in our native language. So I speak Tamil in my home, but then during my schooling with my friends, I either speak in English or in Hindi, and the medium that I was taught in was English. But then, yeah, in some towns and like the smaller cities, they do not have English medium school, so they end up teaching in like Hindi or some other regional language. But I would say in most cases, yeah, the schooling is most definitely in English.
Right. Beside IIT Madras, what are the other top universities in India? Right. Can you name us
Uh,
five, the most prestigious ones in the country?
Yes, so there are IITs, which are your engineering institutes, and then there is IISc Bangalore. So you could sort of think it of as Harvard of India, because the main focus there is research, not so much from an engineering standpoint, but more towards, okay, what's the sort of papers that you bring about, and there's not much focus given to technology, but rather the research that's going on. And the others are ICERs. So IISc is like the big one, and then there's the ICERs, so Indian Institute of Sciences. And then you have the private engineering colleges. So BITS, for example, BITS Pilani, BITS Goa, these are like really sort of prestigious universities in India. And through JEE mains, you can get into what are known as NITs. So IITs are Indian Institute of Technologies. They're sort of national wide. Whereas your state sort of main government institutes is NITs, National Institute of Technologies. So they're located in the different states around the country, and so those are considered to be, really prestigious. And then for like say you're really interested in computer science or like the technical side of things, there are the triple IITs. These are mainly known for the electronics and like the computer science degree. So these are some of the other like famous sort of big universities. But then there are a lot of private engineering institutions, VIT, SRM, Manipal. So yeah, there are a lot of institutes, but people try to target some of the government established universities because of their heritage and yeah, and placements and other sort of factors, the facilities that we get.
So one more thing about the tuitions. When
Yeah.
you have public schools and also you have private schools. So for public schools like IIT that you are right now, you are not paying anything, any money for tuitions, right? It's completely waived. How this works in
Uh,
India?
oh no, so the tuition fees aren't completely waived, but they are a little less than your private engineering institutes. So I mean, so we pay, I would say around like 50% of what the private schools take, but it's still
Mhm.
it is still quite a bit. But again, it depends on your background as well. So say you're coming from a family that doesn't below the median average of India, and so they do get like tuition waivers and scholarships and other things. So in general, none of the universities are like per se free, but yeah, relatively subsidized rates in like the public schools compared to the private engineering universities. Um,
Correct. What do most IIT graduates do after graduation? They go into industry, they go into startups, or they continue studying, doing PhD.
yeah, so I think let me take probably like a 15, 20 years back, like the early 2000s. That was a time when, you know, uh, I think most of the IITians sort of went to do their MS abroad, especially in the US. I think there were a lot of people in the 90s and the early 2000s who sort of graduated from IITs and immediately went to do MS in the US. But I think off late things have been changing, and because of India's sort of growth and other factors, a lot of people have sort of shifted their motives from instead of doing an MS abroad and sort of settling there to actually settle down in India and like work for the startup companies that are present here. That's one. And depending on the department, I would say like people from computer science and electrical. So India is, as you know, like pretty hot on these sort of topics. So a lot of them end up working in a software MNC company in India for like a pretty good package. Whereas departments like biotech, for example, you see a lot of people look for a PhD program abroad or in India, in IISc or ICERs. But yeah, it comes down to the department. A lot of people just okay, they got into an IIT just because they cracked the exam where their interest lies in computer science, but they're in mechanical. So they end up doing they develop the skills to get into a software role and just yeah, end up with a job over there. And so IIT just sort of helps them push. They do have to put in an extra effort because their courses aren't aligned with what their interest is. But then yeah, because of the placements and other sort of facilities we get, people do sort of end up in that kind of areas as well. Off late, there has been a boom in startups as well. But yeah, I think it's a sort of a mixed bag depending on the department, depending on your interests, how sort of people choose. Yeah.
Right. What kind of salaries can top IIT graduates expect to get in India?
So, I mean,
Since
computers.
you have so many great companies in India, right?
Yeah.
All the top companies, tech companies in the US almost have a branch in India, like Google, Apple, all those big names, and definitely you're getting hired in those companies too when you are inside of the India and getting degree in the schools. So since I have seen some students from IIT Madras doing data science, deep learning stuff in Google, which is inside of the India. So yeah, I am curious to know what is the top
So
salaries that the students get there.
I don't have the exact sort of placement statistics right now on me, but then
Hmm.
from what I've spoken with my seniors and like people from other departments, it comes roughly to around 20 to 30 lakhs per annum. That's like your starting salary. But yeah, obviously there are like other bonuses in the stocks, for example, and also the fact that because you've been, you're graduating from an IIT, you have like better chances to, get early promotions and, better opportunities later down in your career. But yeah, on an average, I think the starting salary is around 20 to 30 lakhs per annum. Right.
So what is your personal career goal?
So I think from a young age I was sort of interested in the sciences and in general just sort of understanding how the world works. And yeah, I mean earlier in my career, I think when I was a middle school kid, I wanted to get myself into astrophysics and used to watch podcasts on Dick Tracy and like the other sort of big pioneers in astrophysics. Stephen Hawking was amazing at that time. But yeah, and then once IIT happened, and well, my rank did not get me into the physics side of things. But yeah, I wanted to sort of experience IIT, and yeah, biological sciences and life sciences also offered me that path of understanding how, well, not how the sort of wider universe works, but how our bodily systems work. And throughout my sort of tenure, I enjoyed the subject, and now I'm at a point where I feel like, yeah, I want to like sort of explore more of what the field has to offer and try and maybe discover something new. And so my direction is towards higher studies and possibly doing a PhD in PhD in the field of computational biology, and yeah, getting more sort of academic domain knowledge in the field. Yeah, that is.
Would you like to come to the US, or you prefer to stay and continue your study in India?
The US, well, I initially wanted to, but then the off late the situation has been a bit against immigration and other things. But I'm currently looking at, well, biotech hubs per se. So Boston is one really sort of good, biotech hub. There are a lot of upcoming startups, and the culture is developed around the big universities that are present there. The other sort of main areas that I'm now looking at because of the situation there is in Europe. So Switzerland and UK seem to have a lot of these biotech startups that are upcoming, and so that's sort of the direction I'm going towards right now. So looking at PhDs in Europe, in the UK, as well as in Switzerland and possibly Germany. But yeah, not so much to do in India. I'm probably thinking of coming back here once I finish my PhD and like work and get some exposure over there. Once the India's biotech sort of develops and becomes much bigger, I will definitely sort of come back and work here. Yeah.
Right. That's great. Wish you the best. Which country, whatever happens, I'm sure you're gonna do great jobs. So,
Thank you.
Karthik, one more question about. I'm coming back toward more India to know more India, how the
Sure.
life works there. So, for someone who has never been into the India, how would you describe student life there?
Student life, I would say, I mean, chaotic is a word that I can use because the thing about student life in India is that you constantly have something, or like something is always coming up, and yeah, you're in a constant process of, okay, new information and how I'm gonna handle that. So there's gonna be one day where I get invited to this podcast, and there's the other day where there is this very interesting mail that my university sort of provides me, and sort of I have to apply to that. And the other day, my friends just decide to call me. So I would say it's it's an experience to have if you sort of enjoy a constant sort of stimulus. So there's always something happening in the institute. There's always some cultural program. There's always some celebrity showing up. There's always some talks happening, and yeah, opportunities are always there. So you sort of don't get too much time to forget about everything and sort of just relax, because yeah, sometimes you just end up missing out on a lot of interesting things that are happening. But I would say that's in a way good if you're like an undergrad student, because end of the day, what matters here is getting as much exposure to how what happens in the world plays a very important role, because before you sort of finalize on something that you want to pursue in your career. So maybe you don't know if you're interested in finance, but then in Indian institutes you sort of get the opportunity to explore in a finance club, or say you're not sure whether you're interested in the arts, but you always have that opportunity as well. So yeah, it's a constant process of getting stimulus. It's up to you to sort of decide on that, whether to take it and like enjoy it in that, or yeah, maybe just sort of seclude yourself and focus on your own sort of research interests or anything. Yeah.
Do you agree that life in India is more family centered?
For sure, and that is something that I do agree with, because, yeah, I'm currently in my home actually. So, I think from a very young age you sort of have this very interesting family bond, and then they sort of keep you. I mean, yeah, in general, you spend a lot of time with your family throughout your middle school and high school as well. Because after your school, you sort of, okay, you have your colony friends and you spend time with them, but then most of the time you do talk to your parents and other things. So um, that bond gets formed from a very young age, and that stays throughout even your adulthood. So even when I'm like 30, 35, I will still sort of come to my parents' house and ask how are you doing and things like that. So that constant touch would always be there. I feel like in the US things are a little more independent as well. So yeah, the sort of the student gets free privilege to do whatever he wants and she wants. But then sometimes here you are constrained in some ways to stick and surround yourself with the family. Also, apart from that, in India we do have like huge families. So you have your WhatsApp groups that have over 40, 50 members, and there's constant functions that are happening throughout any family. Because, so say every month there's some kind of marriage, or there's like a the 1 year birthday anniversary and things like that. So that keeps you constantly in touch with your relatives, and I think that plays a role in keeping that family sort of centric outlook. Yeah.
That's true. How safe is India for students in your experience?
Uh, in my experience, it has been very space. I don't think I've ever been in any form like harassed or anything. Yeah, there is some amount of bullying in your schools, but that's again it's not that physical or anything. It's just sort of, oh, you do not vibe with us kind of thing. Why, when we are into these rock bands and other things, while you're playing video games, or why should we spend time with you and things like that. But apart from that, I have personally not experienced any form of other abuse or anything like that, or like threats. And yeah, but then yeah, I think some people might have a different experience. But yeah, coming from my side and my friend groups and like the people who I've spoken to, I think everyone has agreed that it has been very sort of safe.
That's perfect. What do people around the world misunderstand most about the India?
Well, that's a interesting question. One is, I'd say, a poor country and like less hygiene and things like that. I'd say that's sort of restricted to certain regions, but end of the day, most of the country is on a path of development and growing, and we have we have developed a long way from what it was during the time of independence. And I'd say now, you guys are more than welcome to come to India and sort of experience this and not worry about bad hygiene or like bad food quality. There are obviously good restaurants in the major cities, and yeah, and I think that's like one sort of misconception that's sort of coming top of my head. um the other, well, do I say we're good with math? I don't know. uh,
You
yeah,
are,
that's something
yeah.
that's been going around. I don't know. Yeah, like during my high school, there's like this big thing where Asians are good with math. Sort of this interesting stereotype that Indians are good with math. I wouldn't say so because we are in different fields. So there are people who are into math as well, but then people who are into the arts, people who are into dance and like physics and other sort of fields.
So is it is
So
it is it true, is it true, Karthik, that every student from the early age, like elementary school, they start coding to learn how to code? Is it true?
uh, so when you say coding, like people do I mean in our curriculum we do have like Scratch. That's a software which is not exactly like hard coding like in Python or MATLAB. It's more like just playing around with a system and then expecting a cat to do something. So that's part of our curriculum. But yeah, I would say not from elementary school, but from middle school. I think people who are interested in the sort of coding and technical fields end up learning a bit of Python, learning a bit of programming. But yeah, I would say compared to other countries, we are more tech focused. So that means that even in fifth or sixth grade, the exposure that we get in this sort of field is higher. So people do start more often than not actually coding in the towards their end of high school and eighth, ninth grade. Yeah.
What are the biggest challenges young people in India face today?
Uh, so I think it's a good question to ask actually. Uh, Sometimes I feel well, schools in India sort of get constrained to the curriculum there, and I would say coming out of it is a bit challenging. Although colleges like IITs and other universities provide you that opportunity, your high school and your middle school does not. So, say for example you want to start up an iGym team in your high school, there is not much opportunity going on out there. So I would say in some ways your school sort of constrain you to a particular curriculum and a particular path. And personal opinion is that some amount of exposure there also is important. I think that's like one sort of challenge. So sometimes students cannot find their interests or cannot find their passion because their school does not allow them for to expose themselves into that area. And so then later in life they kind of regret, oh, well, I'm good at piano, but then, well, I'm now in my 30s, so what's the point? And so that is like one challenge that students, like young students, might feel, is that some kind of ignorance might set upon themselves, and not knowing a lot about themselves, I think, is like one area. Because I learned a lot about myself um, in my university, not in my school. So yeah, but yeah.
And
Also, one more thing is, and I say universities, it's there's obviously a lot of competition, and young people might not always get the opportunity to get into these universities. And so I would say like the lower universities are not as great in terms of getting themselves to expose themselves and other things. So the high sort of competition also is one I would say challenge, because a lot of people come onto this very high stress and like, okay, what am I supposed to do in this place? And so these are some of the challenges I think people do face. Yeah.
right, what about the biggest opportunity the students in India have today?
The opportunities in India for like a young adult, so you're saying right after graduation, or like you mean in the school life or something?
Yeah, what can keep them motivated to see, okay, there are great opportunities for me. For example, people are studying in the US. I'm a student, PhD student. I'm saying, okay, after graduation, I'm gonna get a job in Johnson and Johnson or Pfizer or big tech companies. I'm gonna get huge salary, the type of the work I'm doing, and you see a great future for yourself that keeps you motivated, encouraged to do whatever you're doing. That sort of things.
Uh, so I think in my view, so in many ways, because sort of India is on the developing phase, there are a lot of job opportunities off it. So I think a sense of job insecurity of people rushing to the US to find a job and other things is slowly coming down. And given that India is very good in terms of, so if you can make some amount of money, you have a lot of freedom to yourself. So when I was in the US, I noticed that I had to do everything by myself, be it cooking, plumbing, and other things. But in India, you can possibly just order in food. You can order in a plumber, and it's fairly cheap. So in many ways, getting a job in India is becoming easier, and well, I noticed that the comfort level, if you're in India, is far is much better than say in other places, at least from in my experience. So I think these are some of the opportunities to look forward to. I think the job market in the different fields are opening up. There are various initiatives that you can sort of get yourself into to find the right sort of environment for yourself and other things. So there are a lot of good upcoming opportunities, and I think the comfort levels that you experience living in India is much I would say is really good. I think these are some.
Yes, right. If you could go back to high school, what would you do differently?
Very good question. Uh, I I don't know, because looking back, what happened to me during high school is the reason that sort of I'm experiencing this kind of life. If say I chose a completely different path in my high school, where say I just sort of hang around with my friends, I go to the different sort of malls and other places and sort of enjoy myself, that would have led to a different outcome. I may not have the opportunity to get into a top university and things like that. So I'd say I would have sort of stayed in the I would have kept it the same. Maybe start my own YouTube channel. That's something that I've always wanted to do. I think 2016-17 period was like a good time to get yourself into a YouTube and like make sure that your um, the channel grows in size. And that is just one thing that I would have wanted to do. Just maybe started a gaming channel, probably like Dream or some of the big YouTubers that have will come up in the gaming field. But apart from that, I don't think I would have wanted to change anything. Maybe I wanted to have studied a little more to get into physics, but that's fine.
Cool, cool. That's great. And is going abroad seen as success in Indian society?
uh, well, that is, see, yeah, I mean, in many ways, it still is. That stereotype still holds, where people feel, oh, getting an MS, doing, that is seen as success. But then again, now we are in a path where people want to do their own things, and the definition of success has changed. I think that's partly due to the digital age, so people are now beginning to see various aspects of how you might want to shape your career. Because I mean, before, I would say in the early 2000s, it was a matter of getting the best job and like finding that's the only source of income, and that's like the only thing you can possibly do. And okay, the best way to do it is to go abroad. So in many ways, success was determined if if you're able to go abroad, or your job is secured, so it's good. But now, because of the digital age, I think people have slowly um, sort of diverted themselves and getting into other aspects, and in many ways, yeah, exploring themselves and seeing what they like. And people have begun to realize that, well, success end of the day is a matter of whether you're happy or not, in some sense, right? So if you're happy doing YouTube, well, then that's successful for you. I think that is now sort of becoming the new trend. I think it's partially being fueled by uh, different people in the same field. Earlier, you just had your relatives who were abroad, and oh, you thought that's success. But then now you can go on LinkedIn, you can go on Google and look at different people, who have defined success in various paths. So, yeah, I think it was present earlier, but now it's moving towards the direction of, okay, what do you want to do in your life, rather than, okay, go abroad for success.
So, Karthik, in 2025, you were a undergrad research fellow at Harvard University. Can you tell us this experience? How was that? How was your experience in the US? And what was different from your perspective before coming to the US?
Yeah, so I mean, the experience was amazing. So actually, I want to just give a small shout out to the reason as to why this happened. I think earlier I had mentioned about having a good sort of peer group, and actually this opportunity came about because of, yeah, one of my close friends. So it was, I think, in mid Feb. I did have an internship opportunity in Switzerland before this happened, where he just sort of walks into my room, hostel room, and he tells me, oh, I have an acceptance at Boston's Children's Hospital at Harvard Medical School, where I'm going for this summer from July to August, and well, why don't you also apply? You do have an internship. There's nothing to lose. This is probably the last time you might get the opportunity to come to the US for an internship, so why not give it a shot? Well, that motivated me, actually. So I just ended up cold mailing a bunch of professors and applying to the US Harvard summer fellowship programs. And fortunate enough, I'm quite deeply humbled after a couple of interviews and yeah, few HR rounds. I managed to get selected at the medical school for my fellowship, and actually, maybe you guys can put up a photo here. We had a brilliant time in the US. So I was roommates with him for those sort of 2 3 months. But yeah, overall, I think it was a very different kind of research experience. So in many ways, it really opened my eyes into how research in top universities actually function, and it is nothing of what I expected, because previous experiences with research was, I ended up working mostly with PhD students, and you know spending time with them, but throughout the internship, I had like great opportunity to talk with my professor, share my insights into how the project might go. I had the opportunity to steer the project in the direction that I chose. I had a lot of flexibility. And one more thing was, yeah, the time. There wasn't any sort of strict regulations on when you needed to show up for the internship, or like when you needed to spend, like, say, a 9 to 5 job or anything like that. You could have come whenever you want. You're free to leave whenever you want. And yeah, the professors and the other PhD sort of scholars were really welcoming. I think this was the first time they had an Indian intern, and so yeah, I got to talk to them, get insights from them, and also the nice part was the medical school had people from different ethnicities. So we had sort of people from Europe and China and in different countries. So I was able to sort of absorb the different cultures that are present there. In terms of research, I think uh, the outcome was really good. We had a good time, and yeah, it was overall just like a really fun experience in the US. Apart from, yeah, the obviously everything we had to do independently, which was something that, I didn't expect. So for the first time, I had to do some plumbing jobs and other things. But apart from that, I think it was overall like a really good experience. And yeah, in terms of sightseeing, also like I got the opportunity to go to New York and Yale to meet one of my seniors, who's currently doing his PhD there. So that was one, and then yeah, the overall the East Coast was fantastic during the summer months. Yeah, I think it's definitely something every Indian student should sort of aim for, just to get that exposure. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and Boston area, is the hub for biotech, right, in the
yes.
world almost. And
S- Yeah, coming to that, I got the opportunity to speak to a lot of sort of biotech professionals as well. Um, So I haven't mentioned this, but yeah, I'm also part of the IGEM team, International Genetical Engineering Machine, and I got the chance to meet with one of a CEO of a company, Ginkgo Bioworks. Her name is Renuka Shetty. So she founded the company based out of a synthetic biology project, which
oh,
was a great experience. And personally, that's like unimaginable in India. You just sort of message them on LinkedIn saying, "Oh, I'm here for, the summer break, and we have a chat." And she was more than welcome to sort of call her to her office, and we had a 20-30 minute chat on, how to take projects forward and how to build startups, and the importance of having like really smart people around you. So yeah, that was also a really sort of good experience that I got.
that's impressive to be in Harvard, experience that kind of lifestyle as a student. That's really amazing, and that builds really strong resume for, especially for internationals who could get into Harvard Medical School, being in Boston area, having the conversation with tech companies around the area. Yeah, that's really fascinating and amazing. I just have one question left, and
Yeah,
thank you so much, Karthik,
sure.
for
Yeah,
um, accepting my invitation and being
yeah.
here today with us. My last question is about the definition of happiness. What is your definition for happiness? And do you think you are happy?
I would say I'm really happy right now. I think happiness is, well, in according to me, is not, sort of looking at the future and like earning millions and other things, but rather it's trying to live in the present. Uh, as much as you can. Obviously, you are worried about your future and you have some regrets in your past, but those tend to, sort of keep you either tense or stressed, or in many ways not happy. So trying to live in the moment and sort of be in the present. Okay, at this moment, what do I have to do? And doing that with like full involvement, and yeah, obviously keeping the future in mind, not so much, but as much as you can. That to me is how I would sort of define happiness as. If you live in the present and sort of keep yourself fully involved there, you would more or less be happy. The only time you sort of become sad, and that's when the thoughts of, oh, your past, maybe I should have done that, or in your future, oh, I should have maybe looked at this company, why didn't I apply, those things come. But when once you are in the present, you forget about all of that and you stay happy. But that's just sort of my opinion. I think different people have
I
different
love that.
ways.
That was that was great definition. I love that. Thank you. And thank you for everyone watching us today. I hope you enjoyed the
Thank you so much.
conversation. I really enjoyed, and I I love to talk to smart students all over the world. And
Thank you so much.
I hope you also enjoyed this conversation with
Oh yeah.
Karthik from IIT Madras, which is the MIT of India. And if you like the video, and subscribe to YouTube channel, and we will come back to you soon again with another interesting videos. Take care of yourself, and thank you, Karthik, again, and have a great night. And thank
Thank
you,
you so
everyone,
much.
for watching us. Thank you so much, and bye bye.